Hi everyone, it's Burrito again. So if you're watching this video, um, you should be doing the leadership workshop makeup training. Keep in mind that this is different from the leading teams, I think it's called, makeup training. So just remember to try to keep those two straight. Some of you might have to do both, some of you might only have to do one. So if you only have to do one, just make sure you're doing the right one. So today we're going to talk about what it means to be a good leader. Why, as a counselor, as you in your role as a counselor at camp, why that's pretty synonymous to being a leader, being a role model for your campers, and um, why that's so important. And so scrolling down, just kind of to this overview page here, you can see. It says that this session will be more interactive and more of a discussion than most, and obviously because of the nature of the makeup trainings, since we're doing them all over video, it won't be very interactive. Sorry, I might get tired of my voice, but just be me kind of talking at you. So if you, as always for any of the other trainings too, if you at any point have any questions or kind of want follow-up, more advice, more tips on how to kind of develop yourself as a strong leader to be the most successful at camp as you can be, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have resources here. We'll go over these in the training, and we can also provide you guys with more things if you want them, and we will provide these supplemental materials to you to look at if you want to have them before we all go off to camp in July. So let's get started. This is kind of a note for me more so than anything, but I think it's important to look over it. It's about introducing some concepts and ideas that you guys can kind of put into practice. Develop your own strategies and techniques for leading a group of campers or staff, or effectively leading programs and activities. Our camp days are filled with tons of activities, tons of opportunities for conversation, for dancing, for having fun, whatever it is, making sure that you're being a strong leader through all of that and a good role model for your campers, and relatable and accessible. And we'll get into the details about what Camp Custom standards are for you guys as leaders for our organization. So let's get started. So again, I'm not going to do the whole 1 minute, 2 minute thing, just kind of going to talk through this with you guys, but just kind of think to yourself for a second, what is leadership? Think about like a celebrity, or even like a political figure, or even a good friend or family member, or just someone in your life that you see yourself consistently looking up to, someone that you is in that role model position for you, someone that you think has what the good qualities of a leader are. And the problem with this is that a lot of times when we think about leadership, we think about nouns. What is a leader, rather than thinking about what does it mean to be a leader? How can we act and be a good leader? And it says here, leadership is a verb, it is an action. So it's not just kind of having these characteristics, it's putting them to use and making sure that you're kind of doing everything you can in your power, living up to your potential to be a great leader, which obviously you guys are all counselors. We all saw that in you, and you are amazing and have 100% have the capability to be amazing leaders. You are already. So, what does leadership look like? What does it sound like? Again, this is just basically kind of your own, what you think being a leader means. We'll get into the details later, but what are the important aspects? Going back to that role model that you thought about earlier, what are some of the characteristics this person has, or what are some of the things this person does that make you look up to them? Why, out of everyone that you could have chosen, why is this person, in your mind, someone to look up to in that way? And again, this is more of something that we would do as a group, something that we did in the in-person training. But let's say that, you guys all of a sudden were told in like a very rushed manner, just get up and go into small groups of 4 to 6 people. Now think about these things. There was not really a transition or mourning. How did the groups form? Here's those people probably just clumped together, but what if you don't know anyone? Or what if you weren't sitting next to anyone? How did you choose where you went? Did any of them seem cliquey? Did it seem like people that knew each other already went together? What happened, basically? What might have been some other ways to do that? And the reason we talk about that is because, this is something that's going to happen at camp. You're going to be with your campers. You're going to be in these situations. And, we try to keep order as much as possible, but sometimes things happen unexpectedly. So how can we make sure that as counselors for our campers, we're stepping in as leaders and trying to organize everything and, still have fun, but make sure that we're being orderly and we're being responsible with how we're organizing our days. So here we talk about doing this ideal counselor drawing activity. And I'll go to that handout in a second, but instead of thinking about, a leader, think about a counselor. Think of someone who, kind of like what I said earlier, who you think is a great leader that you look up to. What are the qualities that they have? So I'll jump over that. I'll jump over to that real quick, just so we can start talking about that. So you draw out, what you think an ideal counselor looks like, making a list of all the characters, traits, values, skills that this person has. But main point from an activity like this is to consider that there's not one specific set of values or traits or characteristics or skills that every leader has to have. There are successful people all around the world that are in these big role model positions, and they're all very different. They all utilize their own values and their own skills to their own benefit, and so it's important to tailor your skills and what you're good at to make sure that you're fulfilling your own potential. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're doing this in a positive way, and again, going back to the role model idea, part of being a leader is being a very strong role model, so ensuring that you are developing these skills in a way that are going to make you a good role model for your campers, because they will look up to you. You're there for them. They come to really, really love and adore you. And so it's important that you're setting a good example for them and setting them up, to be good leaders as well. So, again, if you were to have done this activity, we would look at the skills, qualities, we would have written them down and talk about what are some of the things that people might do or say? We talked about how leadership is an action, not just a thing. It's an action that we have to put into play in order to be this good role model, be good counselors. So everything that we do or say at camp should be developing these skills that we kind of thought about. Maybe the ones that you specifically thought about when you thought about the role model you have in your own life. Making sure that you're applying some of the qualities that you saw in your role model to yourself, maybe. That way your campers will have that same type of role model to look up to while we're at camp. So just to finish up this virtual kind of activity that we have here, one of the best attributes that a camp counselor can have is the ability to connect quickly one-on-one with individual campers, especially in a program like Camp Chasm, where we so heavily emphasize the need to make everyone feel included, give everyone that place at camp. Not everyone has that at home, especially when you're dealing with something as difficult as cancer. And having that ability to relate to people, to have that empathy, and really be driven by your passion to serve this community will help you connect to your campers. And again, for many people, it becomes naturally. The campers you're going to work with are amazing and adorable and very, very fun, and will become to hold really, really special places in your hearts. But that ability to connect is really important for us at camp. So going back to the workshop, just as a debrief of what it's important to take out of that kind of thought process is, how are these skills like the skills counselors need? So we talk about a good leader. It, especially for us, being a good leader means being a good counselor. Being a good counselor means being a good leader. So no, they're not really any different. The skills that you're going to develop as a counselor will prepare you for other leadership skills later in your life. And it's crucial to be working at these skills and to make sure that you're fulfilling your own potential that you guys all obviously have, so that we can make camp the best experience for everyone. So I'm going to go over to an article really quickly that Nationalist has provided us with. Talks about a really, really special situation with a counselor who initially didn't think that he was going to make a good counselor. And then after learning about the impact he had on his campers, it changed his perspective. And he kind of talks about how he wishes that he had seen that potential in himself when he started, because it became so evident to him that just being there for people, being their support system, giving them love, was really kind of the best way for him to come into camp as a counselor and be a good leader. So it is a little long, and we will make sure that we provide this to you guys. But I do want to, his name is, she can't remember the counselor's name, but the camper's name is Malik. And he talks about his experience, like I said. His name is James. Side note, not really that important. But again, talks about his story, his experience at camp, and just going down to the bottom. He has a quote that I think really kind of taps into the whole essence of this, and it's right here. I'll highlight it for you guys too. Oh, that went away. But just here. As a summer camp counselor, you have the incredible power to change the course of someone's life. That power will be available to you every single day. Some days you won't feel like using it, or you won't remember to, but I can promise you this. The better you get at remembering to use it, and the more confident you are in exercising it, the more fulfilling this job will become. I've now had some version of the conversation Malik had with me hundreds of times, and I've never regretted it a single time. And he goes on to say, and who knows, 20 years from now, someone might stand up in front of a campfire and talk about how you looked them in the eye and how that changed everything. And they might not. But isn't it worth taking a shot to find out? So again, just tapping into the idea that, you have this amazing opportunity to be that positive role model in someone's life. For our campers, maybe be the only positive role model they might have given what they're going through. And maybe it's a little scary to think about it that way. Again, I hope you guys don't doubt yourselves, but, I think there is like a little bit of nervousness and maybe sometimes doubt that comes with going to camp for the first time, not knowing what to expect. If you've never really worked with kids before, or not really sure, you've never been a camp counselor before, it can be a little scary, but have faith in yourself, because you guys are amazing. We all have faith in you, and again, these trainings are supplementary. We all know that you will be amazing at camp, no matter what. So I'm going to go back to the workshop. So just to conclude this section, now you guys have a list of things that great camp leaders need to be able to do or say to do their jobs. And again, it's different for everyone. You all have different skills, all have different qualities, and that's why we love you. We're such a diverse group, both in character and in other ways, and it's just, we love that you guys all add so much color to our lives. And this is important, but there are also a few staple things that we want you guys to remember going into camp about what it takes to be a good leader. So, thinking about one of the characteristics that you thought about before about what might make a good leader. Maybe something like the word patience came to your mind. You can see patience here. Ask yourselves, how do you know that that person is patient? What do they do? Physically, or maybe verbally, or not, maybe even non-verbally, what do they do that shows patience? And what kinds of things do they say? So again, verbally, what might they say that makes them sound patient? And it's easy to kind of get caught in this like cyclical cycle. Be redundant here. Really patient people listen. That's true. But what about their listening specifically makes them come across as patient? How do you know that they're listening? And so here are some specific examples. Patient people speak calmly even when they're upset. They take a breath before they speak. They don't just rush through things like they're in a hurry. They think about stuff. They use their critical thinking skills to really consider all aspects of a situation. They wait for people to finish speaking. They let others go first. They volunteer their time. So obviously, all of you who are volunteering for us this summer, at least to an extent, are patient people. You've taken the time. You've been patient. You've sat through all these trainings. You've developed your skills in order to be able to have this incredible experience. And it's something that you'll continue to do at camp. You'll continue to volunteer to help people. You do more than is required. A patient person won't complain and they'll smile. Things they might say, maybe, okay, I think we need to try it again. They don't get upset by having to maybe readdress something or redo something. They ask for help. They offer help. They step up. They say, I'll do that. And they might say, I understand how you feel. This ties into empathy and, being supportive. But these are all aspects, very specific things that a patient person might do or say to, really help someone that might be going through something know that they're there, know that they're listening. Just if you want to just look over this really quickly yourselves, we have the same thing for confidence. Someone that's confident will do and say very specific things that make you know that they're confident. So going forward, at camp, it's one thing to talk about these things, but try to really digest them and think to yourselves, how can I apply these traits and even more? What can I do? What can I say to really utilize these at camp to make myself the best leader and the best role model possible while we're up in Payson this July? Okay. So now we're getting to the more specific foundational skills that I mentioned before. There are 4 foundational skills that every great camp leader should work on every day. Again, it's not like you have to have these down perfectly in order to be a good leader. That's not the case. These are all works in progress. You will be a leader in some way, shape, or form for the rest of your life. You'll step into roles that, cause you to need to utilize these leadership skills, and you'll continue to develop them. So it's okay to not have them perfect now. But just keeping these in mind while you're at camp will help make your experience and the experience of your campers just the best it can possibly be. So I'm going to go over what these 4 things are. I forgot to mention them, but the first one is accessibility. Then we have approachability. We have teamwork, and we have clear communication. And those are kind of the 4 staple characteristics that a leader should really have. And again, as we go through them, we're going to want to be really specific and think about what would they do, what would they say, using that strategy so we can really delve into how to apply these different foundational traits to ourselves while we're at camp. So first is accessibility. So to be accessible means, people know where to find you throughout the day. You might make the time to talk make the time to talk, or you set up a time to talk later. A lot of times you're going to be busy, at camp things come up, there's so many things going on at once. Just making sure that you still are going to be accessible to your campers, to other campers, to your co-counselors, to other counselors at camp, shows that you care and that you're willing to be there for them. Following up with people later, or following through with what you said you would do. This is a really important one. We're all at camp, we're all working together, and we really rely on each other a lot. You can't get through camp, it's so much fun, but it can be stressful at times, to be honest with you. And that's why we're all there for each other. That's why we all work together. And another great reason that we have this kind of sort of network and of family with each other is that not everyone is going to be 100% absolutely kick butt at all of these leadership strategies. So we can come together and create a really strong force and have this kind of leadership network of all of us, which is a really wonderful thing. So yeah, these are the three things that kind of define accessibility. And going even deeper, what might accessibility look or sound like? So open body language. Don't fold your arms. Don't stand there. Hands on your hips, looking at your watch consistently because you're stressed about getting somewhere. Really showing that you're there. You're there for the person to talk to you. You're there to give them your time. Having sustained eye contact is kind of the same, shows the same willingness to be there and to help out. And calm and warm responses. This is an attribute that characterizes accessibility, but also a lot of other leadership traits. Remaining calm, remaining warm, and friendly. Again, like I talked about, being a good role model and being a good leader, being relatable is a very, very key component of that. And as long as you have consistently those calm and warm responses to people without getting heated or without getting frustrated, it's really, really going to make you extremely successful at camp. So here's an example. If you want to take the time to think about it, you're on your way to your cabin for your rest hour when one of your campers comes up and asks you if you can talk for a minute about something that is bothering them. So what might you do in this situation? Maybe you could find someone to switch rest hours with you so you can talk with your camper right now. Or you can let your camper know that you will find them as soon as your rest hour is over. Give them a specific time. And as long as it's not urgent, reassure them that you will find them and you will talk with them later. This is something that we might more heavily rely on at camp, again, as long as it's not urgent. If something like this were to come up, we know you all want to be there for your campers, but it's important that you take breaks too. It's an exhausting week. It's a lot of fun, but it's pretty tiring, and taking the time for yourself is critical. So moving on to our next kind of staple of leadership is approachability. So this might look like, or the characteristics of approachability are showing with your eye contact and other body language that you are paying attention. When you're engaging with someone, especially someone that might look up to you, sometimes it can be a little intimidating to come up to someone that you look up to, but showing them that you're willing to have that conversation, you're willing to engage with them, that you're an approachable person will make it a lot easier for them to, trust in you and come up to you. Again, remaining calm. And asking open-ended questions in order to learn more about that person's experience. So rather than kind of sticking strictly to yes or no questions, giving them the opportunity to elaborate, to talk about themselves, not only helps you learn more about who your campers are or who your co-counselors are, but will also help them to trust you, to see you as someone they can really rely on and really talk to while at camp. So another example. Let's say two of your campers get in a fight, so you break up the fight and sit them both down to talk about what happened. Really important, maintain eye contact. This is emphasized in your EOTs. Hopefully you guys have done those and have seen that. It's also important to get both sides of the story. If this means that you have to get another counselor involved so that you can really give your time and attention to each person's side, then do that. Whatever is going to make you most successful to achieve this type of approachable reliability. And again, asking open-ended questions and don't get angry. Remain calm. Next is teamwork. For good teamwork, you sometimes do things that you don't have to do. You're a team player. You see that sometimes, even if it might not directly help yourself, it might help someone else. So you're willing to do stuff that is going to, help out a teammate and really contribute to the well-being of the whole group. Your input is helpful. Sometimes it's better to, just listen and then really only respond in ways that are going to be helpful rather than just trying to shove advice or trying to shove information down people's throats. Just being that person that is going to give valuable input to really, really help either diffuse a situation or plan something, whatever it is. And again, back to this role model idea. You do what you tell others to do. You're a reliable person and you are part of that team. Not only caring about yourself and maybe what you want, sometimes even sacrificing what you want to ensure that the rest of the team is going to be benefited, especially working as, we have our color units, especially working as a unit with your counselors. And if you are a good role model, this is something that your campers will see too and will want to kind of mimic, which will be really helpful to create this whole team family dynamic that we have at camp. So a real life example of this might be that all of the counselors on break from 4 to 5 offer to help admin team set up for empowerment so they don't have to do it alone and it will get done quicker. One thing that you will come to find, again, a lot of people use their break time to nap, especially around 4 or 5, maybe it's right before dinner. You've had a long afternoon playing out in the sun with your campers and you're exhausted, but recognizing that there's a bigger need. Empowerment is one of our most moving, most impactful times at camp for our campers and for our counselors too. So ensuring that it's going to go successfully and that everyone's going to have an amazing time, sacrificing your own time, doing something that you don't have to do, being helpful, and in doing this, being a role model as well. And then lastly, we have clear communication. So there are 2 components to clear communication. The first is expressing yourself clearly, especially your expectations for your staff. This is important because if you don't set expectations, how can you know what someone is going to be reliable to do, what you expect of yourself versus what you expect of others on your team. So use less words and write things down. These are just ways to facilitate this expressing yourself, really kind of mapping out how you all are going to contribute to this team dynamic and ensure that everyone is successful both on their own but as well as working together. And the second part is listening carefully, especially to the concerns your staff have. You'll notice that this leadership workshop, all in all, really focuses on the needs of your team. And yes, always setting a good role model for your campers, but making sure that you're all working together as counselors really smoothly. And this is important because the better we all get along as counselors, the better we work together, the more we develop these skills, the better experience all of our campers are going to have. And that's really our end goal. We just want to make this the most amazing week we can for our campers that we love so dearly. So again, showing good eye contact, nodding and leaning in, showing you're engaged, and paraphrasing what's being said. So after having a conversation, doing some sort of quick overview shows that you're listening, shows that you understand what was communicated, you understand what's expected of you, you're laying out expectations for other people. It can be really, really helpful. And again, this might be something that you see more at our council meetings that we have at night to kind of go over what happened during the day, review plans for the next day. But even at times that you feel is necessary with your co-counselors in your cabin, this is going to be really, really useful for you guys. So again, a real life camp example, maybe one of the counselors in your unit has been using their phone blatantly in front of your campers, which is a big no-no for us. You confront them by stating clearly that the expectation for phone use is that it's only on your own time. It's only during your rest hour or at staff meetings, but it's not in front of campers. We're there to be with our campers. If they see you on your phones, it's setting a poor example. They're not going to they will still look up to you, but maybe not in the positive way that we want them to. You're there to spend time with your campers, and if you're not doing that, then they might be discouraged or might feel like they're not being valued, and we don't want that. So listening to their concerns or questions about this and coming to a solution together, having that open line of communication. One thing that you guys all did an amazing job with during your interviews actually was during that conflict resolution question, talking about how you use communication to solve your problems. So we all know that you're already excellent at doing that, but just remembering that this is going to come to serve you really, really well at camp too. So to close, I'm going to show you guys a quick TED Talk. I'd share the link, but it's here, so just going to do it really quickly to kind of emphasize again how we are all leaders at camp and how fine-tuning these skills and small gestures can have a big impact on our campers.
I want to start by asking everyone in the audience here a question. How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school on a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, "On my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad. And I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, 'Look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what.'" And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shinorama, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinorama. And all of a sudden, you got to me and you just stopped and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me and you smiled and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop and you held it out to him. And you said, "You need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you." And she said, "I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life." He turned beet red and he wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face and you looked at my mom and my dad and you said, "Look at that. Look at that. First day away from home and already she's taking candy from a stranger." And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy and I don't know why I'm telling you this. But in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, "You should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later." A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I've searched my memory banks because that is funny, and I should remember doing it, and I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, "You've been an incredibly important person in my life," was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us." And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today. Have a great day at TED. I'll see you later.
Yeah, okay. So just to kind of debrief that, you all are all already amazing leaders. You have that within you. And I guarantee you, like, Drew was saying, even if you don't know it, you have had that sort of impact on someone's life up until now. And you are going to have hundreds more impacts like that throughout your life. But this camp this summer is an opportunity to do that, and you will go and you will do that whether you realize it or not. So just kind of what we talked about here, it's guiding principles. It's things to kind of help you find your way while you're at camp and make sure that you're being the best role model that we all know you already are. But you're incredible, and we cannot wait to have you all at camp. So thank you for taking the time to watch this leadership workshop. Again, if you have any questions or concerns about anything, want more help, reach out. We're always here. And do not forget to take the quiz once you finish this. Love you guys all. Bye.